Hi, on this video, I'm going to be talking about the third part of our Biodiversity in Ecosystems series. This is going to focus on how the biodiversity protects ecosystems from destruction. So the stability of an ecosystem depends on its diversity. So disruptions will always happen. But if an ecosystem is diverse, it's going to be more likely to survive when that happens. So invasive species are those that get introduced to an ecosystem, usually by some human that does it on purpose. Oh, I don't want to take care of that pet anymore, and you might think it's just one pet, but then somebody else does the same thing, and all of a sudden they mate, and now you have thousands of snakes that's not supposed to be in the Everglades. Or oh, it'd be nice to have this tree here so I can have some fruit, but that's not a native tree. Ah, it doesn't matter. I just want some mangoes. Bring in the mango. All of a sudden, there's mango trees growing everywhere, replacing the trees that's supposed to be in that ecosystem. Right? So accidental introductions happen too when humans travel with trains and boats and airplanes. Ants and pests from all over the world can be transferred from one place to the other, causing problems for ecosystems. There's a lot of invasive species which are plants actually too. But what tended to happen is that they tend to outcompete the native species because they don't have natural predators. The predators which live in that ecosystem will go like, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to eat that. And they also might have characteristics that help them grow faster, perhaps, or do better than the native species. And if they do, the situation is even worse. And they can even carry diseases that can cause even more death among the native species. So what will end up happening is that their population numbers will rise a lot, leading to biodiversity loss on the other species. Now, this is going to be much worse if an ecosystem is not very diverse. If a very, very, very big rainforest full of different types of life, one tiny little invasive species will have less of an effect than, say, a temperate or tundra, which has very little diversity comparatively speaking, and each species is like crucial for a very, very, very carefully kept together food web. So it all depends. Now, in general, the ability of ecosystems to survive disruptances depend on that kind of stuff. So a rainforest is going to be way more diverse than a desert because of the amount of water and heat that it has and nutrients. Because of that, it supports more types of life and more variety among those types. So because of that, one thing going extinct is not going to affect the entire food web. Think of it this way. If you have 100 things in the food web and one of them goes away, unless it was like a keystone species that's crucial, it's possible that it might only affect a corner of the food web. And not a lot of shockwave effects throughout the whole thing. Maybe far away from that interaction, but if you have very few interactions in the ecosystem, every single one of those connections is crucial. And so a single missing piece can cause the destruction of the entire ecosystem. So disruptions will always happen, but the pool of species, the amount of resources that you have, the climate that you have, will all affect what you can do, right? So the productivity of species depends on the climate and resources like nutrients. That helps protect the ecosystem and leads to more biodiversity or a pool of species, which in turn leads to more stability, which in turn leads to more productivity. So they feed each other in the middle here. The ecosystem that's more stable will maintain its diversity, maintain its productivity. They all rely on each other. However, with more disturbances, it's going to be harder to maintain that. But if you have a variety, you're going to be okay. So there's a direct relationship between the diversity of an ecosystem and its stability, or what is called resilience, its ability to survive over long periods of time. So how do you measure diversity? Well, there's different types. The first one is called genetic diversity, which is the diversity that exists within a population. You can see that with like different breeds of dogs or different races in humanity. We have so many colors of skin and eye colors and shapes. And all of that is an example of the type of diversity that exists in our DNA. Then there's the diversity at the community level, ecologically speaking, which is the diversity on the numbers of species that exist in an ecosystem. But not just the numbers, all right? I'm not talking about the total numbers of life. I'm talking about the total numbers of types of life. And not just the numbers, but how are they distributed? You can have 90% of the life forms. Let's say you have 100 life forms, but 90% of them are of one kind. That's not very diverse. But if you have the diversity distributed across many life forms, then the ecosystem is richer. So the diversity in types and distribution of life is going to be called species diversity, That helps ecosystems. And then you have ecological diversity, which is the diversity among ecosystems. Like there are many ecosystems in the world or many ecosystems in America. But in general, diversity means a variety of life in all levels of its organization. Genetic diversity protects species from extinction. The more variety a species is, the less likely it is that one disease or one change in the environment will kill them all. Species diversities, like we've just been talking about, protect the stability of an ecosystem. The more species there is, the less effect a single deletion on the food web is going to have. The more stable, the more productive the system is going to be, which in turn will also make it be more diverse and stable. On the other hand, ecological diversity matters for the stability of the world. The ability of our planet to support life has to do with the diversity that it has. All the ecological services, which we're going to talk about in the next video, the things that life gives us, that the planet helps us with, will only be possible because there's so many types of life in so many ecosystems in the world. Now, do note that measurements of diversity within an ecosystem generally refers to the number of different species within it. And that's what's going to help a lot with the questions. It's true that the distribution of species matters as well, but most of the test questions you're going to face on the content assessment are about counting the types of species there is. Do know that for practical purposes, it does matter that it's not just the number of species types, but how well they're distributed as well. But you're not going to see many questions about that in the test. Now, not the number of organisms, the number of types of organisms. Adding more of the same thing does not add diversity, all right? Not even within a population, all right? So diversity is very, very important, though. And that's what takes us to our next video, where we're going to be talking about what are the things that actually help the world and humans because of the diversity that exists in our planet. And I will see you guys then.